The Courrières mine disaster in northern France on March 11, 1906, became one of the deadliest mining catastrophes in history. At pit number 3 in Méricourt, rescuers and families gathered in anguish as fire and explosions underground trapped more than 1,000 miners. The tragedy left 1,099 dead, shocking Europe and sparking demands for safer working conditions. In March 1906, the Courrières mining disaster devastated the Pas-de-Calais region, killing more than 1,000 workers. As fire raged beneath the shafts, terrified families crowded the site, desperate for news. Gendarmes struggled to hold back the panicked crowds, while newspapers like Le Petit Parisien captured the scale of grief and anger that soon fueled protests for miners' rights. Amid the ruins of the Great Chicago Fire in October 1871, a lone man surveys the charred remains of his city. The inferno raged for 2 days, reducing homes, businesses, and landmarks to ash across 3 square miles. About 300 lives were lost, and over 100,000 were left homeless. Yet from this devastation, Chicago would rise again, rebuilt into a modern metropolis. The aftermath of the Chicago Fire of 1871 reveals streets filled with rubble and the hollow shells of once proud buildings. From October 8th to 10th, flames consumed much of the city, leaving smoldering ruins in their wake. Despite the destruction and immense loss, the disaster spurred a wave of rebuilding that transformed Chicago into a hub of modern architecture and resilience. In 1883, Krakatoa erupted with catastrophic force. Its explosions heard thousands of miles away, the loudest sound ever recorded in history. The blast collapsed much of the island, sending towering tsunamis across the Sunda Strait that obliterated coastal towns and claimed tens of thousands of lives. The event left Krakatoa smoking and half-submerged, a haunting reminder of nature's raw power. In June 1889, the Johnstown flood unleashed devastation when the South Fork Dam failed, sending a wall of water racing downstream. This stereoscopic image captures overturned Pennsylvania Railroad engines amid a valley choked with wreckage. The disaster claimed more than 2,000 lives and destroyed much of Johnstown, leaving haunting scenes of industrial ruin tangled with human tragedy. After the Great Flood of 1889 swept through Johnstown, members of the Conemaugh Borough Fire Department gathered around their overturned fire engine, a silent witness to the torrent's force. The dam break upstream had obliterated homes, railroads, and industry, leaving more than 2,000 dead. For survivors like these men, the wreckage marked both loss and a determination to rebuild. On May 31, 1889, the South Fork Dam collapsed, sending 20 million tons of water crashing into Johnstown, Pennsylvania. The flood destroyed the town within minutes, killing over 2,200 people. Known as the Great Flood of 1889, it remains one of the deadliest disasters in U.S. history. On April 18, 1906, a massive earthquake struck San Francisco, toppling buildings and sparking fires that raged for days. This stereoscopic view of Devonshire Street shows the ruins left behind. Nearly 3,000 lives were lost, and much of the city was reduced to rubble. In 1906, the San Francisco earthquake tore a deep split along the north end of East Street. now known as the Embarcadero. The quake devastated streets and buildings across the city, leaving scars in the landscape and marking one of the most destructive natural disasters in U.S. history. After the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, displaced families sought refuge in makeshift camps like the one in Golden Gate Park. Here, a woman and 2 children cook over a temporary stove, while military personnel and other refugees tend to daily life amidst tents, highlighting the struggle to survive amid widespread devastation. On March 19, 1937, a massive explosion devastated New London High School in Texas, leaving only a corner of the building standing. Frantic parents, rescue workers, and oil field employees sifted through the twisted wreckage. Over 600 lives were lost in one of the nation's deadliest school disasters. 11-year-old James Kennedy shows terror on his face after being trapped for 10 minutes under the debris of the New London, Texas school explosion. Miraculously rescued, he became one of the few survivors of the horrific blast that claimed over 600 lives, leaving a town and nation in shock. The immense force of the New London High School explosion near Overton, Texas, is visible in the chaotic, splintered ruins. Rescue workers labor grimly, removing both dead and injured from the wreckage, as the disaster claimed over 600 lives and left the community in mourning. The Hindenburg airship erupts into a massive fireball while attempting to land at Lakehurst, New Jersey. Despite the terrifying blaze and rapid destruction, many passengers and crew miraculously survived, making the disaster one of aviation's most infamous and widely remembered tragedies. In the aftermath of the Hindenburg disaster at Lakehurst, a badly injured survivor, still holding a cigarette, is carried across the field to a waiting ambulance. The image captures both the chaos of the catastrophe and the resilience of those who miraculously escaped the fiery wreckage. Amid twisted, scorched dur-aluminum girders towering overhead, rescuers work tirelessly to recover the dead and assist the injured in the wreckage of the once majestic Hindenburg. The airship's crash at Lakehurst, New Jersey, claimed more than 100 lives, leaving behind a scene of devastation and heroic efforts to save survivors. A large dust cloud rises behind a truck traveling on Highway 59, south of Lamar, Colorado, in May 1936. This scene reflects the harsh Dust Bowl conditions that struck the Great Plains, where severe drought and relentless winds turned farmland into drifting soil, making life extremely difficult for local families. A postcard depicts an approaching dust storm sweeping across the Midwest during the 1930s. The image captures the intense conditions of the Dust Bowl era, when prolonged drought and poor farming practices created massive clouds of drifting soil, threatening homes, crops, and the livelihoods of thousands of families. A truckload of Dust Bowl refugees waits patiently as a flat tire is being repaired in Weber Falls, Oklahoma, during the 1930s. These families were forced to endure harsh conditions and massive dust storms that devastated crops and homes across the Midwest, highlighting the severe human impact of the Dust Bowl era. Rubble fills the interior of the central jail in Baluchistan, later part of Pakistan, following a devastating earthquake in 1931. Captured by the Bhutani Bros, this photograph comes from an album belonging to Private A. Baird of the 2nd Battalion, Royal Scots, Signal Section, documenting the widespread destruction and the challenges faced during rescue and recovery efforts. On April 17, 1947, smoke and flames rise from the Monsanto chemical plant in Texas City, Texas, following catastrophic explosions that began on a French freighter docked on the Gulf Coast. The chain reaction of blasts devastated the area, claiming over 600 lives and injuring thousands more, marking one of the deadliest industrial disasters in Texas history. On April 19, 1947, rescue workers stand by the ruined shell of the Monsanto chemical plant in Texas City after the devastating explosion of ammonium nitrate aboard the SS Grand Camp. The blast spread to the warehouse, claiming nearly 600 lives, and around 150 bodies were later recovered from the wreckage, highlighting the catastrophic scale of the disaster. On April 19, 1947, after a massive explosion in Texas City, rescue workers surveyed the destruction that claimed around 400 lives and injured over 3,000. A 150-ton steel barge was lifted from the ship basin onto dry land, carrying several crushed cars with it, illustrating the sheer force of the disaster. A Gressley Class 5 two-locomotive lies on its side after the Potter's Bar crash on February 10, 1946, where a local train to London King's Cross derailed when a signalman changed the points. Two northbound expresses then collided with the wreckage, killing 2 passengers and injuring 17, highlighting the tragic consequences of the accident. Swollen waters of the Arakawa River are seen in Kumagaya, Saitama, Japan, on September 17, 1948, following the devastating impact of Typhoon Ioni. The typhoon brought heavy rains and strong winds, causing flooding and damage across the region as local communities coped with the aftermath. Residents navigate a flooded street in Tokyo, Japan, on September 17, 1948, using a small boat to move through the waters left by Typhoon Ioni. The storm brought heavy rains and strong winds, submerging roads and disrupting daily life across the city, as communities began to assess the damage and recover. Spectators at Buckley Field experienced a dramatic simulated atomic bomb explosion on May 16, 1958, and again on May 17, 1959. Conducted by Army Chemical Corps personnel from Rocky Mountain Arsenal, the A-bomb was actually a landmine filled with napalm, but the blast was powerful enough to shake the ground and thrill the gathered crowd. For a brief moment, digging paused as rescuers carried another body from the wreckage of Pantglass Junior School following the catastrophic collapse of colliery spoil tip number 7 in Aberfan, Wales, on the 21st of October, 1966. The slide, which began at 9:15 a.m., claimed the lives of 116 children and 28 adults, devastating the village near Merthyr Tydfil. Rescue workers continue digging at the local primary school in Aberfan, Wales, on the 22nd of October, 1966, a day after the collapse of a colliery spoil tip devastated the village. The disaster on the 21st of October claimed 116 children and 28 adults, leaving the community in mourning and shock. Rescue workers labor through the night under floodlights in Aberfan, Wales, following the catastrophic landslide that buried the local school. The disaster claimed the lives of more than 190 children and teachers, leaving the village reeling in grief and devastation. Along Buffalo Creek in Logan County, West Virginia, a wall of water tore through the small mining town after a mine slag dam collapsed. The devastating flood swept away homes and lives, with the death toll estimated at 80 to 90 or more, leaving the community in shock and mourning. A street in a Peruvian town lies filled with debris from destroyed houses and buildings following the 1970 Ancash earthquake, which struck the Ancash and La Libertad regions on 31st May. The massive quake, along with landslides and avalanches, claimed the lives of an estimated 65,000 to 70,000 people, devastating communities across the region. In the main square of Huaraz on June 6, 1970, a family arranges a makeshift home using salvaged furniture after the devastating earthquake of the 31st of May struck the Peruvian regions of Ancash and La Libertad. Measuring 7.75 on the Richter scale, the disaster claimed over 70,000 lives and left around 140,000 injured, leaving the city in ruins. In 1977, a catastrophic collision between two Boeing 747 airliners occurred on the runway at Tenerife's Los Rodeos Airport. The disaster claimed 583 lives, making it the deadliest accident in aviation history, and left an indelible mark on air travel safety protocols worldwide. 11 days after a toxic gas leak from the Union Carbide plant in Bhopal, which released methyl isocyanate and killed around 3,000 people while seriously injuring 20,000, authorities announced the resumption of work, prompting another wave of mass evacuation. An estimated 200,000 of the city's 800,000 residents fled, while canvases hung around the plant were constantly watered to limit gas exposure. A general view of the Union Carbide plant shows the scale of the facility where a catastrophic gas leak occurred, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of people. Thousands more were forced to evacuate their homes as toxic fumes spread through nearby neighborhoods, creating panic and a humanitarian crisis in the city. Oil from the stricken Exxon Valdez tanker is pumped aboard the Exxon Baton Rouge as part of ongoing cleanup operations in Prince William Sound near Valdez, Alaska, on March 29, 1989. The massive spill had devastating effects on local wildlife and ecosystems, prompting one of the largest environmental response efforts in U.S. history. The Exxon Valdez, responsible for the worst oil spill in U.S. history, sits high and dry at the National Steel and Shipbuilding Company in San Diego, California, on November 18, 1989. After 3 months in dry dock, workers cut off the lower bow and removed 1,600 tons of damaged steel, creating a 650-foot-long tunnel through the center of the ship's hull. John Thomas, Betty Bang, and Fred Welts, left to right, bagged dead, oil-soaked sea otters on April 3, 1989, at Green Island in Prince William Sound. The animals were shipped by helicopter to Valdez for autopsy more than a week after the Exxon Valdez ran aground on March 24th, spilling 11 million gallons of crude oil into the Alaskan waters. Prince William Sound, Alaska. Dead sea otters lie on the beach at Green Island, awaiting disposal as the death toll rises. The Exxon Valdez oil spill continues to spread across the Sound, affecting wildlife and the surrounding environment. Leninakan, Armenia, 16th December 1988. Following the devastating Spitak earthquake, a woman walks through a heavily damaged area carrying some of her belongings, as the city struggles to cope with the widespread destruction and loss. Armenia, 7th December 1988. A powerful earthquake struck northern Armenia, leaving widespread destruction. German Red Cross rescuers are seen here with search dogs, combing through the rubble in efforts to find survivors amid the devastation. In Bangladesh, on 30 April 1991, in the aftermath of the country's worst cyclone in 20 years, a man struggles to save himself and his lamb amid rising floodwaters in Chittagong district. The powerful storm, which struck the region on 29 April with winds of 155 miles per hour, sent a 20-foot surge inland, killing at least 138,000 people and leaving up to 10 million homeless. Bangladesh, 9th May 1991. Saleh Ahmed, 60, inspects his rice supply in Banskali, Chittagong district, following the country's worst cyclone in 20 years. The tropical storm struck on 29 April with winds reaching 155 miles per hour, pushing a 20-foot storm surge inland, killing at least 138,000 people and leaving up to 10 million homeless. Kutubdia Island, Bangladesh, May 1991. A distraught man surveys the aftermath of a devastating cyclone that struck the island. The disaster claimed the lives of approximately 40,000 of the island's 110,000 residents, leaving the community in mourning and struggling to recover. Kobe, Japan, January 26, 1995. A woman prays for the victims of the recent earthquake in Hyogo Prefecture. The magnitude 7.3 tremor struck on the morning of January 17, claiming 6,434 lives and igniting widespread fires, leaving the city devastated and its residents in mourning. Aerial view of the burnt-out Nagata area in Kobe, Hyogo, Japan, following the Great Hanshin earthquake. The magnitude 7.3 tremor struck on January 17, 1995, killing 6,434 people and causing widespread fire damage throughout the city. Aerial view of the flood-damaged municipality of Los Corrales in Vargas, Venezuela, showing the aftermath of the December 1999 rains. On 12 March 2000, France's Minister of Cooperation Charles Jocelyn led a delegation of French industrialists to inspect the affected areas and participate in the region's reconstruction. A man clears mud from his home in Caracas, Venezuela, following devastating floods on 22 December 1999. The hardest-hit area was the small state of Vargas, just outside the capital, where around 500,000 residents live in numerous slums perched precariously on fragile hillsides. Homes sit submerged in the 9th Ward of New Orleans, surrounded by floodwaters following the devastation of Hurricane Katrina on August 30, 2005. The aerial view highlights the widespread destruction caused by one of the deadliest hurricanes in U.S. history. Firefighter Jerome Crenshaw wipes sweat from his brow during a brief pause in recovery operations following Hurricane Katrina on September 1, 2005 in Gulfport, Mississippi. Originally from Miami, Florida, Crenshaw is part of the massive relief effort tackling the storm's widespread devastation. On August 31, 2005, a satellite reveals New Orleans devastated by Hurricane Katrina. Vast neighborhoods lie submerged, streets erased by floodwaters. This haunting image reflects one of the gravest natural disasters in American history. May 18, 2008, in Beichuan, Sichuan Province, grieving parents pray for their daughter amid earthquake ruins. A powerful aftershock shakes the region as millions face loss, disease, and flood in one of China's deadliest modern disasters. May 20, 2008, near Payapon, Myanmar, a woman grasps a bag of food tossed from a boat after Cyclone Nargis. In isolated villages cut off from aid, survival depended on neighbors, as the nation awaited global help amid staggering devastation. May 20, 2008. Survivors of Cyclone Nargis near Payapon, Myanmar, scramble for food thrown from a passing boat. Cut off from all official aid, these villages relied only on each other, as the world braced to respond to the unfolding catastrophe. Mexican federal police searched the ruins of Haiti's National Palace 5 days after the January 12, 2010 quake. With Port-au-Prince in devastation, rescuers comb the rubble, seeking victims amid one of the nation's darkest tragedies.